Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. Now, that I guess, first of all, I didn't know that all of you here were mind coaches. So that makes it like easy for me, but it also makes it more difficult. Or shall we won't use the word difficult, more challenging, but probably almost certainly more fun. Quick question before we start. I've just been looking around the table. How many left-handers do we have here, or people who are ambidextrous? 1, 2, 3-ish, 4, 5. It's a lot. And it seems that the profession that we've chosen, or more accurately, it's chosen us, is that a lot of left-handed people are represented there. And I don't know the reason. Well, I've got a few ideas, but anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about if you're making a presentation, it's best not to get onto what they call a cold stage, just to walk on and nobody knows anything about you or who you are, and they don't even know why they're there. So if possible, get somebody to introduce you for a couple of reasons, and then to cut it short, that's why I made this video. To me, watching this is the hardest thing that I have to do when I make a talk. But it's not about me. It's just to tell people, a bit more about who I am. And the second reason why it's good to be introduced by another person is I don't prepare for a talk. I obviously give it some thought, but I don't make much preparation. And I mean, today I came on the train and I got this card where I just wrote a few things, and some of them I've crossed out and some of them I put in a different order. And I put a few things. I don't normally use a flip chart, but I have today. And the other thing about a good being introduced is because if you can find this space in your mind, the answers will always come to you. And there's never been a time that I can remember when I didn't get a cue from the person who introduced me that would get me started. And when you get started, a presentation, just like therapy, it takes its own direction. And so talking of which, we're a small group, this is very informal. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you want to ask your question or disagree or make a comment. And by the way, I'm just sharing with you what I've found to be useful over the years. I'm not suggesting that the stuff you do isn't at least as good, because it's probably even better. But these are the things that work for me, and the stuff that you can take away and try as soon as you leave this room. And some of the things won't work for you, but hopefully some will. And if they do, then let me know. So here we are. Now, Alexi's helped me more than he can imagine. Because remember this wonderful diagram? Can you actually remember what it's saying?
Yes.
What?
Focus on the present. Focus in the moment.
Yeah.
Next steps.
Yeah, and it's steps. Yeah. So it's basically taking the client on a journey. They're getting interested in you, and eventually they sign up for your VIP program. Is that it? Yeah. Is that? Yeah. Okay. Well, what about, let's get rid of all these steps in the middle and go straight from there to there. Now, there's a word for that. Any idea what that word might be? Yeah, that's one. Except I wouldn't agree with that. But magic's a good word. Yeah, magic.
Shortcut.
Sorry.
Fly.
Fly. Yeah. Intervention. Yeah. Jump. Yeah. Well, the word that I'll be talking about today, if you were briefed about what I'm going to be talking about, all of those things are fantastic. What's the rest of the word?
Intuition.
I can't spell. Is that how you spell intuition? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you see, left-handed and terrible writing. So thanks, Alexi, for that. So there we are. That's introduced the main thing, but not the only thing that we're going to be talking. And I have some very eloquent flip charts here, which will tell you almost nothing. Spotlight, in case you haven't heard of that. You've probably heard of equity, which is the body that represents actors and actresses and film stars and people like that. And but Spotlight really does that job. It's based in Leicester Square, and when I had a career change in 2007, I had a neck injury. I won't talk about that now. But I decided every year I was going to do something different, something that I obviously wanted to do. And I'm a doctor, and at medical school, I'd always worked in the reviews, the plays and things we put on. So I thought, I want to be a professional actor. So I went to film school in Ealing, the wonderful studios there, and I got parts. I've been on TV and film, and as a result of being a member of Spotlight, I could hire rooms there. And so I hired a room for a workshop. I think we had about 30 people from what I can remember. And this is back in the days, 2014, and people said, when you make a presentation, start with a yes set. Do you know what a yes set is? Okay, I'll give you a demonstration. I don't do this anymore, but I suppose I did in a way, because I started by saying who's left-handed, but that's, by the way. So these were the three things, these were my yes set. Who would like to be healthier this year?
Yes.
Hands up, yes. Okay, who would like to be, it's very, very surprised if anybody doesn't. Who would like to be wealthier this year? Yes. Who would like to be healthier this year? Ta-ta. Yeah. So, apparently, according to the psychologists, this gets you in the mood of acceptance and agreeing with, so I can say whatever crap I want after this, and you'll still think it's only half crap. Yeah. But then you see, I went off script. And I'll tell you, although it's dangerous, it's really good to go off script, which is why I don't really prepare for a presentation until I literally stand on my feet. And I made a little gap, and this word came to me. I said, who would like to be lucky this year? And then all the hands went up, and the atmosphere changed completely. It's very hard to describe. It almost like, if I had any hair, it would be standing on end. It was a tingling type feeling. And I thought, well, you know what? That's going to be my word for this year in 2014. And 2014, it really started. I mean, this was I think it was about the 14th of January. And I was working with a lady poker player. She was the top woman poker player in the world. And I was just about to fly up to Edinburgh, because there was a big tournament that she was in, which I'm pleased to say she finished second in, and so won quite a lot of money. And then that led to an introduction to her friend, whose partner was a player called Chris Moorman, and his face was on there, who is now the world champion poker player. And he didn't want to work with me. His partner said, come on, you've got to see Steve. Liv says Steve's good. He didn't want to. I don't know what he thought about mind coaches, but it wasn't very much. And so we had a Zoom call, and his partner was on the same call. And I said, look, we can't do this it was Skype in those days. We can't do this by Zoom. I have to meet you. Where are you? Well, I'm traveling here and I'm traveling there. And I was working on the European Golf Tour at the time, and I was doing a lot of traveling. So I could see that he was using this as an excuse because he didn't want to meet me. So I said, okay, where are you 2 weeks from now? And he said, I'm playing a poker tournament in Vancouver, in Canada. I said, perfect, I'll be there. And I pressed the button. Now, this is crazy. This is crazy. It's probably the craziest thing I've done in my life, because I had no agreement to work with the client. I had no contract. And I knew if I was going to go, I was going to have to buy myself an air ticket, book myself into a decent hotel, and meals and lodgings, all that kind of stuff. That added up to a lot of money. Plus, I was having to cancel stuff. But I turned up, and we had, he couldn't get out of it then. The first session went very badly. More details of how bad it went. I brought a few of my books along. I doubt anybody's a poker genius, but this is a story about the work that I've done with professional poker players. He didn't like the first session, but anyway, cut short to 3 days later. What he wanted to work on, by the way, and I'm sure you always find out with your clients, what do you really, really want to work on? Not the first thing they say, Chris said, I want to earn more money. I know you've got money in the bank. I've checked what you've earned and also what you've lost. but his face changed, and this was the visceral, this was his connecting to his unconscious mind. He said, if you can help me with this will be worth it. What is it? I want you to get this 300-pound gorilla off my neck. And I said, tell me more. He said, and his face got really, really serious. I want people to stop saying that I'm the best poker player who's never won a major. You'll have heard this, the best tennis player who's never won a major, the best golfer who's never won a major. And he said, even worse, now my friends are saying it. And I said, okay, well, we're going to work on that. The way we do that is we're never going to talk about this again. He said, well, what's the point? What's the point of working? We're not going to mention it. I said, we're not going to mention it again because we're going to look at other stuff, because it's a bit like Alex's fantastic diagram. Getting there was winning the major, but there's all these little things that we can't actually cross out. So we worked on process. We worked on dealing with the things that he could control. So I was waiting in the lobby to go back to the airport. I said, Chris, I've really enjoyed working with you. You've been brilliant. You turned up on time. You've asked great questions. Great questions, by the way, are a big part of coaching. I can't predict what's going to happen. The next tournament you go into, you've got a 15% chance of making any money at all. They call that you're in the bubble. The rest go home with nothing. A bit like on the tour on golf. If you don't make the cut for the weekend, you earn nothing, which means your coach earns nothing as well. Anyway, I get to 2 weeks later, I had a little ping in my inbox or something, and it was PayPal saying, you know, you've received a payment today. Oh, goody, goody, somebody's bought one of my audiobooks. It was a much bigger amount of money than that, and it was from Chris. So I phoned him straight away. I said, Chris, what's this money? And he said, do you follow poker? And I said, well, not really. Well, don't you follow the people you work with? Well, I said, well, no, I figure if they've got anything to say, they'll give me a call or something. I don't just work with poker players, Chris, you know, and I don't just work with you, because, of course, every client thinks you only work with them. And he said, well, the next tournament I went to after we met you was the LA World Poker Tournament Championship, which is a major. And he said, and I won it, and I won over $1 million. He said, so I thought I'd better share the love around a bit. Said, well, thank you, Chris. And to this very day, I'm still working with Chris, and he's become a friend more than a client, really. But he's now, you know, gone on and on every year. He makes more of a legacy of his career, and he's very happy. So there you are. He got lucky. And certainly, you know, things started to get pretty good for me in January, and I was on the TV quite a bit. And
Can I challenge something there? Really?
Yeah.
You just said he got lucky.
Yeah.
That's what you said. He
Yeah.
got lucky.
Yeah.
Which part of that was lucky? Was it finding you?
It's all in my book called Get Lucky Now. But great question. Anyway, on this, I have brought just a few copies of these three books. This one is called The Psychoic Revolution. I wish I'd called it something else. Nobody knows what the word psychoic is, because it's not a word. I made it up myself. It's the word psychotic with the T crossed out. It's all about really how we've got a psychotic side to our brain. That was the last book I wrote. Anyway, so yeah, luck is not random. Luck is not random, and we're going to go into that to some extent. And now we've got an equation. Words, as you all know, are ambiguous. That's why if I wanted to communicate if I really wanted to communicate properly, I would use mathematics. I'd have if I was teaching them mathematics, particularly because I only scraped a pass in O-level mathematics myself. But words betray us because words are ambiguous, and what leads to arguments and quarrels and wars, and even worse. So, accepting that, if we take luck, which most people would say is totally random, but which I don't, because I think there are things that people can do to make them attract more luck or to make more of the luck that is around. Add it to intuition, which is the way of cutting of cutting straight from the problem to the solution without having to touch the steps A to Z in between. Is there anybody in this room who has not had any moments of intuition? No, so that means we all have. Intuition is arguably the greatest thing we have going for us in whatever we do. In the work that I do with clients, when they're stuck, I say, look, stop all this thinking. If there was some higher self or some higher wisdom that was guiding you to do something, what do you think that would be? And if you can do it with a slightly hypnotic voice as well, that will help get that person relaxed. And sometimes the truth will come out. Obviously, for a question as important as that, you would really take a little more time explaining it. But there was a French surgeon, and he won a Nobel Prize for arterial surgery, but it was he who had the expression, intuition is the supralogic that jumps from A to Z. And when a poker player, for example, is having a succession of bad results, or even just one bad hand they've played, they will call me and they'll want to talk about it. And I've learned to let them talk for as long as it takes. And sometimes it can be about half an hour. And for somebody who's got a short attention span, half an hour is a long time for me. So I feel I can interrupt then. So I'll say, excuse me, can I just say a question? Can I ask a question? And they'll usually laugh and say, oh, yeah, was I going on a bit? No. That was fine. But what was your first thought when you played this hand? And they think, well, the first, I'm hoping you can understand enough about poker. My first thought was that this guy sitting over there who was betting against me, shoveling piles of chips, my first thought that he was bluffing me, that he didn't have anything. And so as the hand developed and more cards were being put into the middle of the table, face up, we come to the last card, which is called the river card. He said, but on the river, I'd been thinking about it, and I think this guy's got a strong hand. I think he's got his two hands which face down, I think he's got two aces. And I've got two jacks or something like that. So what did you do? So I folded. Throw my cans in the middle, and the guy scoops up all the chips. Now then the guy did something I'd never ever recommend anybody to do, a poker player to do. He showed what he had, which was nothing. So he had been bluffing. So your first thought, generally speaking, as long as your brain's not in panic, your first thought is usually your best thought, because you are intuitively connecting to your intuition. Intuition is hardwired into us. And I gave a TEDx talk, and I talked a little bit about that, about intuition in general. And this teacher came up to me and he said, when you said about your first thought being your best thought, he said, that's so true. He said, I invigilate exams, and I walk around, everything is multiple choice now, I think, and these kids have their pencils, and he says, I see them hovering over the right answer. And then they think and they think and they think, and then they go to the next one, which is the wrong answer. So when we combine luck, which is not random, with intuition, which is what we all have, irrespective of culture, creed, gender, intelligence, lack of IQ, none of that matters. We all have it. The trouble is that it's often hidden, and some of the things that we do keep it hidden. So when you combine luck and intuition, you get wisdom. What Carl Jung used to call, you're tapped into the collective unconscious of the whole of mankind. 8 billion people, plus all the people who are dead, plus or probably all the animals. That's what he calls the collective unconscious. Now, when he said that back in 1938, people thought he was crazy. But he talked about, death camps being set up by Hitler, to kill all the Jews. They thought he was crazy, but he wasn't. He was speaking the truth. And now we know about DNA, and now we know about genes, and now we know about inheritance. Those ideas are not so crazy, because 8 billion of us have more or less the same gene set. And as long as we don't have any physical injury, that means that we're all operating on a level playing field. And this is where the magic comes in. When our clients get results, and whilst it would be really nice to be able to tell them, this is how I do it, and this is how you did it, often we have what Anthony called, it's invisible. So I don't know really the one thing that I've said or done to somebody that has managed to make them make these transformational leaps. But the fact is, as long as they've done it, it doesn't really matter. And it's, it doesn't matter that I don't understand why. And so now these are kind of the second things I'm going to talk about are these ones here, which are worth you thinking about and maybe trying out yourself in your practices and see if they work. And if they work, how much, or if they don't at all. So I did a weekly TV and radio show, and I did 60 episodes, which took, and it was one a week, and I didn't miss a single show, so it was just over a year. And they wanted me to renew, but I didn't want to. I felt I'd taken that particular show as far as it could go. But I tell you, I learned so much from doing it. When you're getting into that routine of being under pressure every week, you soon, intuitively or not, you see what's working with yourself, and you see what's working, what clients like. And one of the things that they liked was that towards the, there was a 30-minute show, and then we had an ads break coming at about 15 minutes. And just before the break, I'd say, I've got 4 questions for you to think about while we have the break. The first question is, and I'm asking this to all of you now, is what is your greatest gift? Everybody on this planet has a gift. Do any of you know what your greatest gift is? And this is not a time for humility, by the way. Humility does not have any place, because we have to replace humility with the truth. And the truth is that all of us will have a greatest gift. And somebody like to give me an example of what their gift is? Yeah.
I think my intuition is my greatest gift.
Your intuition is your greatest gift. Great. And I'm sure that it is.
I think mine's my emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, yes. Which is all, like the same kind of thing, isn't it? Being able to read people. Hope you're not reading me at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Anthony. Confidence. Yes. You can't do anything without confidence. I mean, can you imagine going to a coach for help and they're timid little mice? Oh, I'm scared to say this, but maybe just what? No, you want somebody who looks confident even if they're not. And going back to these letters and ambiguity, bear in mind that verbal communication is at best 30% of communication is verbal. The rest is non-verbal, which includes body language, includes lots of other things, all of which can be learned. So yeah, your greatest gifts. And question 2, what is your greatest desire? Everybody has got a desire. If not, put your hand up now and we'll find one. Okay, everybody, what is your greatest desire? Just a couple of examples.
To be content.
To be content. I've heard that quite a few times, and I think a lot of people are looking for contentment. Yeah. Another one?
Mine's to be happy.
To be happy?
But all of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
99% of the time.
Okay.
100% of the time.
Okay. Okay. I can understand why you would want that, but this is the real world we live in. And I've done some training in NLP, and you might have heard a word called a reframe. When you learn how to turn something that sounds too positive or too negative, to spin it around a little bit. And even if it's a bit worse, like 99% is a bit worse, reframe it so that actually it can be better. Because if you weren't happy, if you were happy all of the time, we've got a calibration dial. You would say, well, this is like normal, but I think sometimes we have to experience the bittersweetness of life, because that's where the learnings come from. And again, you know, coaching thing that comes up with my clients very often, I remind them, we learn very little from when we win. We learn much, much more when we don't meet our expectations. And so analysing the successes, I mean, yes, we do some analysis, but it's far better to analyse the defeats, not in a critical way, but in a constructive way, like, how can I do better next time around? Okay, now if your greatest gift and if your greatest desire are in alignment, that gives you a very high chance of being lucky.
So how do you know if they're in alignment? Like, for example, we take to be happy majority of the time.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence and intuition, are they in alignment? How do you know if that was one person?
Well, let's see if I can think of an example. Let's say that your greatest gift is being generous to others. And what if your greatest desire was to be a billionaire?
Okay.
That could be out of alignment, but it could be, if you're Bill Gates, you could say, my greatest desire is to be a billionaire. My greatest gift is the ability to be a billionaire, and my desire is to spread that money around the world in all of the projects he supports. And I've actually met Bill Gates, and so I can tell you that he's not, you know, this is not a little speech he gives, it's true. And he says his desire is when he dies to have nothing. And he set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is something I did some work with them on that. So, okay, there you are. Question number 3, and this is always going to be there for every one of us, I'm sure. What's stopping you? What is stopping you from using your gift and getting in the way of your desire? And you know, you have to do a little bit of inward reflection on that. Maybe, you know, people like Alexi, of course, can help you with this. And
one of the big ones, not to generalise, what's stopping people is the fear. That fear of going into the unknown, of not being able to know if what they're going to do is going to be successful. So because they don't know, that in itself holds them back. A, because they don't want to maybe look stupid, they don't want to lose any money, they don't want to lose any face. So there's all of those things that make up the sort of fear factor why it might stop them.
it's very, very common. And I've been there myself as well. I've written 7 books. The first book was a book about golf. It was when I was working on the tour. And a person from the University of Leeds sports department, he'd been helping with me, and he said, I've read your book and I don't like it. And it came to the final thing, you know, publishing through Amazon. You have to press that submit button. I couldn't do it. I had to think about it for a few days. And then I did press it, and I thought, somebody's going to buy it. I'm going to get a bad review. I didn't. I got a good review. So I can say that now, after having written 7 books, I don't worry about pressing it. And when I do anything now, I become less concerned with whether people like it or not. But now we're living in a binary world. You could say a bipolar world. You can pretty much guess that 40% of people will hate what you do, 40% will like it, and 20% will like it some of the time and then not like it some of the time, depending on the last person that spoke to them. So it's very, very common. One of my clients has written 90,000 words, and he's been writing it for 5 years. And I said, look, this is ready for publishing. He said, no, got to go through it again and edit. It's not perfect, blah, 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 blah. He still hasn't published it. 90,000 words take a lot of writing. These books, I had a literary agent at the time when my first book was published, and I asked her how long should the book should be, and she said about 30,000 words. Well, I don't know whether this is my warped sense of humor or whatever, but all of my books now are exactly 30,000 words, even if I have to cross out the last sentence. So yeah, it's very common. And as coaches, we have to give the support and the confidence and be able to explain it in a way that takes that fear element out of it. And everybody's going to be different about that. But if you don't put yourself out there, I mean, nothing different is going to happen.
I suppose you could say, well, if your friends or your associates are people who haven't done what you've done, you're not going to get the right answers anyway. So I suppose it's a little bit like you've got to surround yourself with those sort of like-minded people
Yeah.
who will encourage you rather than say something to somebody who says, oh, I don't think that'll be a good idea, when in fact they've never done the thing you're proposing anyway.
Exactly. There's no point asking people like that. In fact, here's something. This is like a health warning. When you go into a career like this, and you get wrapped up in it, as we all do, how many of you have changed your friends as a result of that? How many friends have dropped off? Yeah. It's almost guaranteed, because the people you liked before, they're going to look at you and they say, that person's changed. And you're going to look at them and think, this person's an energy vampire. I just feel like worse when I'm in their company. So, but fortunately, the people you lose are more than made up for the people you gain. And when you're surrounded by people like this, and you're in fear of publishing your book, you've got 10 people around the table who will be encouraging you to do it. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was just thinking what you just said then. So like for me as well, because I used to be in the construction industry, and I've got into coaching, and I'm still, a lot of my friends are in the construction industry, and I'm not really getting the clients and stuff yet. It's like you said, the amount of negativity are, you know, the people like, it's not like stuff that Alex does, you know, they just use coaches as a, you know, it's a bit of a mugs game, no one's going to do it and all that. But then you see stuff online where coaches are making it, and speaking to these guys in here, it's really helped my confidence as well with it, because I said there's a lot of like narrow-minded people, as you said, they don't know what coaching involves and the hard work that I put in, you know. And it's, but, so I just really appreciate you said that, because yeah, I do get a lot of, you know, and sometimes I let it get to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this going to work? But then I'll get a comment, someone saying, do you know what's beautiful what you do, and you've helped someone do that, and then it makes it all worthwhile. But yeah, so I thought I'd throw that out.
I'm glad you shared it with us. Yeah. And definitely that's how we all feel. And it doesn't matter how thick your skin is, it still hurts when you get a lousy review. You know, you feel that, well, you will have all kinds of emotions. I don't think anybody can say they can just ignore those. But when you do help somebody, even if you only really help one person in a year, you've done something that's priceless. And in the area that you're working at, which is crying out for help, because the figures that I see don't look good. There's more and more people with mental health issues. There's more and more people with addiction type issues. And we need people to be able to jump into that and shake everything, turn them upside down, and start making a change. And that's the work that you're doing.
The thing that came to my mind was like when you were speaking a bit earlier, Stephen, was like, you know, if you're doing something and you're getting an outcome, and you don't like the outcome you're getting, you have to change what you're doing. Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. And it's like, yeah, the number of times that cycle just goes round and round and round and doesn't change. If you've got to do, if you want something different, you've got to do something different. And that can be that when you do something different, your life changes. Like you said, the people who were happy with you doing this kind of a circle, suddenly you don't serve them in the way that you did because you're doing this now, or I don't know, just making it up, you know, you're doing something different. And actually your whole vibration changes, your whole way of being changes, how you dress, how you speak, how you eat, what you give your time to. And and people, just life changes. People is just the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like one's got to be willing. If you want the change enough, then you do it. Because you know what? You don't want to lose yourself. That's more important to keep yourself than to please X, Y, and Z. Who were serviced by you being like this.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like that thing, isn't it? It's like when the pain gets enough, sadly, It's, you know, we all know, it's like, it's only when the pain sometimes gets enough that people change.
Yeah.
Take the risk of change.
Yeah. I mean, when you said, you know, why do the same thing, expecting a different result, I think it was Einstein who said that. And another quote that comes to mind, which is what you articulated very elegantly, was a quote from Gandhi, who said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. So you can't be a people pleaser. There are plenty of people who come along to me, well, not plenty, but there's a few people who just don't get on with me as a client. Well, you know, I tell it the way it is. And I think I was saying, you know, the worst kind of clients are the ones who in the first call or the first meeting are directing you on what they want to see in their treatment program. And I say, look, excuse me, you were in charge of your treatment program before you came to see me, and it's the mess you've got yourself into, you've come to see me. So there's no way in the world that I'm going to go along with that plan. Because we know it doesn't work. And they say, well, what plan do you have? I say, well, if you want the honest answer, I don't have one. I say, but I also know that one will come when we put our minds to it, when we find that quiet place in our mind and we listen to our intuition. It's only in still waters that the truth can speak. The plan will reveal itself. And thank you also, because you made me forget that I hadn't answered what is question 4. Question 4, I used to say on this show. Now, question 4 is the important one. It could be more important than all the other 3. Question 4 is, what are you going to share with other people? So question 1, 2, 3 is all about ego, ego, ego. Question 4 is, what are you going to share with other people? And the reason is because when you start thinking about other people, you change your body frequencies. They've measured this now. We know all about heart math and EMF fields around the heart and stuff. And those higher frequencies are going to resonate all over the world. Quantum physics, I'm not going to get into that today, but you put an energy out there, and you know, some people are going to be attracted to whatever you say and get in touch with you. And you don't, not saying you should do this, but you don't need to do social media marketing for stuff like that. You just need to talk to people, raise your frequencies, and even when you're not talking to people, raise your frequencies on your own, and bzz, they'll go around the universe somewhere. Okay, so 3 things for you to go away with. And this one came when people would always, you know, I meet a lot of people going to events and things, and they always say, can you give me like one tip? What do you think I should do? And so you've got like a minute. And I say, I can't really give you one, but I can give you 3 in a minute. And I actually made a short video about this because, you know, when people ask me, well, what do I do? Or what's the best thing that I should be doing? My mind goes a little bit blank and I start talking and it doesn't make any sense. And I can see them thinking, hey, what's this guy on? But so this one helps me. It keeps me grounded. Number 1, talk less. We all talk too much. And I'm not particularly talking about the words that come out of our mouth, but I'm talking about the words that are going swirling around, which is the internal dialogue. Now, if you've got wonderfully fascinating, positive internal dialogue, that's probably okay. But most people have got, you know, extreme negative thoughts. And I think somebody mentioned golfers who are beating themselves up the whole time. That golfers are classic for that. You know, their dialogue. Just by cleaning up your dialogue can make a huge difference. So talk less. Tip number 2, listen more. Listen more. Every word that a person is saying. And don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your eyes. Listen with your third eye. Listen with your heart. Basically, you're reading that other person. And this is a way that you're tapping into that inner wisdom, that intuitive. And if you do that, you'll know a lot more. If you're a therapist, the client, if you just listen, the client's going to tell you everything you need to know. Not necessarily in their words, but what's behind their words. And the third one, which is the hardest, and I try and really, really work hard on this, and I'm getting better at it, but it's still a lot of work in progress. Number 3, let go of ego. It's not about us. When we publish that book and somebody likes it or they don't like it, it's not about us. The goal is we shouldn't care. Why did I write this book? Why did I write any of them? I can't say I particularly enjoyed it. It's a discipline writing a book. There are pleasurable parts of it, but going through numerous edits is I don't know anybody who get pleasure from that. But I did that because I thought there was something there that would help other people. I didn't write it to make myself look good or to make myself feel good. And that's the philosophy that I try and keep in my mind all the time, which is why I don't get too excited when people give me a nice compliment, even though it is nice, and I don't get too upset when somebody is critical of something I've done. Because at the end of the day, all I can do is say, look, I just do my best. You know, I work hard, I do my best for other people, and, you know, what more can you, no more apologies are needed, are they? So that's really kind of like how did I do for time? Are we cool? So I did leave, I hope I left some time for questions and answers, because, as I said, the learnings always come from the questions, really. I don't like giving lectures. I'd rather have interactive kind of discussions, but, you know, we only had so much time today.
Stephen, is it fair to say that that intuition piece is almost the equivalent as the sort of gut feel that we all have? For example, you know, when someone comes in for an interview, and, you know, we've got a panel of applicants, I think most of us, from the minute the person walks in the first sort of 30 seconds, we know that intuitively, maybe our gut feel if that person would be a good fit. I mean, and not 9 times out of 10. I think I've read a book somewhere that says that your gut feeling is more right than wrong. So would you say that that's more or less the same thing that you're referring to?
I definitely would say that, but of course, you have to keep those thoughts to yourself, because the HR department will be all over you. You know, we've called this person in for 45 minutes. You've made your decision in 30 seconds. You don't say, get out of my office, you know, after 30 seconds. So, but I mean, I think you're right. And I know that I've done that myself when I've been interviewing people. The word of caution here is what they call the horns and halo effect. Have you heard of that? Anybody? Okay. The halo is that we like people who like us and who look like us, right? That's the halo. The horns is we don't like people who look different to us and don't agree with every single word we say when we know that we're saying the truth. So you've got to be careful about that. And so, and particularly when you're building a team, you don't want a team of people who all think the same. I mean, when will President Trump get this message? Let's have a bit of diversity around the table. People who are prepared to stand up and disagree with them and get shot. No, I hope they don't get shot. But that's what big companies are looking for. They're wanting people who are pushing the envelope. It used to be that if you got an MBA, you know, in the industry, you were going to go right to the top. The MBA is still a qualification worth having, but what companies are looking for now is MFAs, Master of Fine Arts, because people who are into arts or into creativity, right brain type stuff like that, tend to be more imaginative. Don't speak like accountants the whole time. Good question, thank you.
Can I just ask a question about something you raised, the first question you asked about left-handed?
Yeah.
Because you've worked with a lot of sports people.
Mm.
Do you find that left-handed sports people are more intuitive and use their right side of the brain? I've read something to do with this. My son's left-handed and he's very good at sport. He's 39, but he's really across the board strong at sport. None of us in the family are left-handed except him. And I think he drops into some sort of immaturity. He's told me how he sees the football, he sees the space, and the way he's described it for a 9-year-old, I thought, it's like an advanced way of talking. Yeah. Are you familiar with the left brain, right brain model? Yes.
Yeah. Well, so somebody who's left-handed will be right brain, and they say, this is only a model, approximation, they say that they tend to be more creative people.
And do you see that transform to sport?
In some sports, definitely. In cricket, almost half a team are left-handed.
Really?
Yeah, international teams. Golf, not, because until recently, it was very difficult to get a set of left-handed golf clubs, and so kids growing up would have taught them to play right-handed. The only left-handed golfer I know is Bubba Watson, if you've heard of him. And he's crazy. He's different. Let's say he's very different. And I actually worked with his coach and through his coach with him. And the coach said, well, how am I supposed to coach Bubba? You know, because he's so different. And I said, to be telling you honest, I don't think you need to coach him, because this guy can do things with a golf ball that other people can't do. He can bend it around trees, you know, because he comes from a poor family and he had a small backyard and he had these little balls with holes in, you know, the plastic balls and a few apple trees. He used to practice bending this ball, you know, and nobody can bend it like Bubba. Yeah, so, I mean, why would you want to coach him? You know, but anyway, I don't know whether it was due to that, but he went on and won his next major. Yeah. Yeah, so being left-handed is both a gift and a curse at the same time. So anybody who's left-handed will know. Yeah. Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm struggling a bit going from, because I've gone through what I've gone through and I've come out the other side. People are looking up to me to how do you do it, sort of thing, and it's really difficult to not be a mentor and to try and be a coach. I find it really hard to not give advice on like what worked for me. Is there any sort of advice you could give on? I know it's just to sort of listen, but you know, I sort of know my stuff, and it's really hard to not say it when I like, as you said, when you know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
You can't say because you want to empower them.
No. We touched on this when we were talking a little bit earlier. Timing. People have to be ready. Just like when I had the first phone call with Chris, he wasn't ready. So I engineered things that we met and we tried to find some middle ground. And particularly with an addiction, they're really, really good at thinking of excuses why not today. Maybe I'll think about it next week, but I've got a lot on my plate. You know, I can't be going through all this withdrawal at the moment, stuff like that. The number of excuses addicts can come up with is infinite. And I haven't worked with that many addicts, but I've worked with a few and I've had training. And one phrase that sticks in my mind is you have to wait to hear the magic words. Now, what do you think the magic words would be from somebody struggling with drug or alcohol issues or both? What would be the magic words that they would use with their client? It's 3 words. Enough is enough. When somebody says that, you know they mean it. Enough is enough. And if they're saying, it would be nice, yeah, it'd be nice if I didn't have to drink every night, yeah, it'd be nice to have the extra money. These are just confabulations, these are just concessions. They're not ready. And sometimes, you know, their unconscious mind is telling these people, look, please, it's time. You know you don't like this, you know you're doing damage to your body, just stop. And those messages will clamour and clamour and clamour, but they're not getting through. They're not getting through to the conscious mind. And often, sadly, it takes something to go really bad in their life, which jerks them to know they have to press the reset button. That enough is enough, and the time is now.
Okay.
And if you can catch people then, you're the person that they're waiting for. Yeah, I think you've had good advice here from around the table. Yeah, I mean, you know, the psychologists talk about visualization. I don't think they talk about it very well, some psychologists. But we're all very visual, even blind people. And usually in people, our visual sense of the 5 that we have is the strongest. And going back to what you said, if you can't see it, the chances are it's not going to happen. So when you're working with a client, you've got to paint that, you've got to help them paint their own picture of what it's going to look like getting up in the morning.